carefully crafted to
22.2% inflation rates as of April this year. What does that say about where we are as a country?
I think Nigeria has resorted to being resilient.
Before you call a police station, before they even leave, they'll take permission from
I don't think there's really anything on ground to improve.
the struggle, the ASU strike.
You have done your work, you have put us to the wall. We are not the slaves. I'm not a small boy. You should have given me the report. I have not seen the report.
Hello and thank you for joining us here on Global Morning. This is Global Television. I'm Mofegwe. As always, Jumai Manson is always on the show. Again, this morning. Good to see you, Jumai.
Good morning, Uyi. How are you doing today?
I'm very well.
Well
good to see you. Second working day.
Of course,
yes.
Tuesday.
Yeah, exactly. And as always, we are grateful for life.
We are.
Yeah, Nigeria continues to evolve across many fronts, whether it's politics or whatever it is, and we continue to keep hope alive. You know, yesterday I had this conversation with a gentleman. We're talking about a lot of things about young people, opportunities to work and, get meaningfully engaged.
Of course.
And things like that. And he was expressing personal sentiments around how that in the last 2 years in particular, this is his own assessment. All right. We have so many young people who have left this country from across sector.
Oh, yes.
Whether it's tech, health care, education, even those in business, for example. And then you have the regular Nigerians who just want to travel for education, go enjoy themselves and things like that. But he was more concerned about those who are living because they are not impressed with the way the country treats them, so to speak. Yeah. I'm sure you have also had similar conversations in recent times.
Of course. You mentioned health, for instance. Most medical doctors, I have very amazing friends who are practicing doctors and they know their onions. And they say, Jumai, I'm leaving the country, and you just get a phone call. Hey, I'm in this country, I'm in Canada, I'm in US. Why? Because they feel they're not valued, they're not paid enough, they're not, you don't look at them the way you prefer. If you're to pick between a white doctor and a black doctor, of course you pick the white doctor. So why it's better they go abroad.
So you pick on the basis of skin?
Some people, because they feel they're more qualified, not forgetting the fact that we have very qualified hands who know their onions here in Nigeria. So either for them to make much more money than what is happening here now. Of course, we heard about the NARD, the doctors going on strike and all of that. So it's not helping matters. Economically, it's not helping matters. They're not earning as much as they ought to earn. So it's just unfortunate that they prefer abroad.
Right. It's an ongoing conversation. I spoke with the chapter president, one of the chapter presidents currently of National Association of Resident Doctors, NARD, like you referred to. And he also expressed some of these concerns.
Yes.
Because sometime last year, September, I can remember I had followed somebody to the hospital who took a young boy who was accidented to the emergency unit of one of the teaching hospitals. We got there, you could see that a few persons on duty at that time, this was past 9 to 10 p.m., were stressed. They were stressed, they were stretched, they were inundated, they were worn out and burnt out, right? And you could see them throwing tantrums. You could see them snapping at every given opportunity.
Yes.
It was so bad that one of them even had to say, look, you should be grateful to your stars that we're here doing the job. These guys you're seeing working right now had closed much earlier, but they're left with no other choice than to stay back here and save lives.
Yes.
And you see people just dying like it's normal because the capacity is not just stressed,
we don't have
it's
enough
overstressed.
Hands. Yes. It's overstressed. We do not
and then
have
one of the senior nurses on duty that night says, look, all of my colleagues around here have traveled. These guys were just seconded, so to speak, so we don't have this vacuum. This is the accident and emergency ward, of a teaching hospital in 2022. All right, so that shows you how much of vacuum we've left. And now we're beginning to hear about the residency law, which several doctors are now saying, look, that residency law should be domesticated across states. And then for those who are wondering what that law talks about, it's part of the reason we're having the show this morning. We're going to delve into all of the details in the course of the show. But Juma, I was also going to say that this is not just particular to the health sector, even the bank. I know what it means, for example, for you to have a problem with your bank app. And you say, okay, who do I turn to? Let me talk to my bank, my account officer. And then you reach out, you call, and he's ringing. You know the way it rings when the person has moved abroad. and then nobody takes the call.
Yeah.
And then you're trying to wait for a few more minutes to see what other options you have. And then the person calls you up on WhatsApp and says, no. I'm no longer the person in charge of your account. You have to reach out to so-and-so person. I moved just a few weeks ago.
Yes,
so they're in Australia, they're in Canada, they're in the UK. But of course, they're always in the UK. I'm not going to tell you why they're always in the UK, but it's all right.
Tell us, please.
But maybe some consultancy will be required. That's just a joke. But the point is, human beings have the right to move wherever they want to. Human beings have the right to associate. They have the right to say, look, I want to go seek greener pastures in Rwanda. I mean, talking about Rwanda, for example, that's one bright light in not just East Africa, but Africa as a continent. We see what Rwanda, what Kenya, those two countries on the East African end exactly are doing economic and so forth. We've even seen how international conferences have been moved from Abuja to Kigali in Rwanda.
Yes, of course.
But the point here is, we must have the humility as a country, as a government, and as a people to say what exactly is the problem. Because until we find that sincerity of purpose, to be genuine about interrogating the problems, we're just going to be here and, grandstand and be arrogant and blame those who travel.
Oh, true.
Yes, it's good that we want to say, Jumai has got to be patriotic. Why is she living? She's got to be here and contribute her quota, 2 cents, as my friend would call it. But nobody's asking about how Jumai is dealing with the pressure that she has to grapple with every day. How's she managing that? Nobody's saying Jumai has graduated for 15 years. She has practically not had a job, not because she's not eligible, not because she doesn't have the required skill sets, but the opportunity are extremely limited. I think these are the problems we should be looking at.
And the truth is, most people, to just add to what you've just said, most people, one of the reasons they're actually running abroad, or let me use in quotes, jakwa abroad, in the layman's word, is things are not working. Truth to be told, like you said, unemployment, electricity, when it comes to so many things, everyone is complaining the economy and they feel it is better out there. Forgetting the fact that you and I have to make that effort to make things work all the same.
Exactly. And then there's also been this argument, especially since the time of former president, immediate past president Buhari, about, I mean, talking about health sector. That's the thrust of our conversation on the show this morning, on the one hand. On the other hand, which is equally important, is the fact that people have to be alive before they can do other things. I mean, you and I have to be alive. We have to be healthy for us to be here. All right. So it's only proper and timely that we continue to interrogate issues around the healthcare sector.
Very important.
Because it's critical. We know, for example, how that just 2 years ago, some foreign entity came here to Nigeria to recruit Nigerian doctors in a very prominent hotel. And we were told that even some consultants, in fact, most of the guys who showed up were consultants to see if they could get hired and then get to work overseas and so on and so forth. Nigeria has some of its finest doctors abroad. And then you're wondering what could have been done differently if we had those guys. I mean, when I mean guys, I'm not just talking about gender, I'm talking about if we had those professionals across the healthcare sector, whether it's in the area of, if you like, disease control, O&G, public health, and whatever it is, nursing, talking about laboratory scientists, laboratory technicians, medical health technicians. I mean, you have a potpourri of the finest of them across the healthcare space. And now we have them move abroad, one person at a time. And today you're looking at thousands of them from Saudi Arabia to continental America, to Australia, to New Zealand, to, I mean, all across Europe, and even in some cases across Africa, because they've come to realize that Nigeria, like I said a while ago, have got some of the finest doctors, and who doesn't want the best for themselves? And
who doesn't want to be valued? The two key things here. Do you value that you have someone like me actually performing duties, and do you value the fact that I need to be paid accordingly for those
something commensurate for the value that you bring.
I perform? So it's a two-way thing. So
really, that has also sparked its own conversation, Jumai. People have had to ask questions like, should doctors not be grateful? Should they not show some gratitude? Because they say, I mean, you just pull a random search on the cost of training medical doctors on the average in Europe or in Asia or even in the Middle East, vis-a-vis what you have, I mean, against the backdrop of what you have in Nigeria. And there are people who will tell you, look, the average doctor is practically trained for free in Nigeria. And as such, the least they can do is to say, I mean, give us a break. Let me give back. But, give back is relative, because the question you're asking yourself is, do they have to give back forever? Because we know how that in recent times, there had also been some attempts to say, let's promulgate a law that prevents medical doctors from going to work abroad.
Oh.
All right, maybe for a time window. So upon graduation from med school, they are able to move abroad until they've worked here for a certain number of years. But that law didn't see the light of day because that would be an outright infringement.
Of course.
Some people have
That's a
argued,
human right.
all right, on their rights and so on and so forth. But that's an ongoing conversation. Not just the idea is not to limit doctors or health workers. The idea is to say, let everybody bring sense, so to speak, to the table. The authorities, I mean, those who regulate the training of medical doctors and other health professionals in this country, the government itself, the institutions, and then the professionals to say, look, let's put patriotism in front of us. Let's put service in front of us. Let's put humanity in front of us. And then let's put value as well. Because you've got to value the training that you get from med school, all right? You've got to also value, I mean, the government, on the other hand, has to also value these professionals.
Of course.
Value has to come from the medical doctors or the health professionals themselves, because we know how that. We've seen level 10 civil servants. For example, we've seen petty traders in open markets who have been able to train doctors and engineers and accountants and economists with that's humble means. All right, that's because the system makes it so affordable. If you were to say, let's raise the bar a little, where you have to pay, for instance, as much as £25,000 a session, I mean, for a medical doctor, for an engineer, for an economist, an accountant, where will that money come from? For a level 10 civil servant, of course, we know what that means in Nigerian context. We are saying that to say that everybody must be selfless. The government, the institutions, the regulators, the students themselves, and say, let's build our own system, all right? How is it that nobody's explaining to us that tomorrow people would rather still go to a private clinic, no matter how mushroom, so to speak, it is, all right, than to go to a government hospital? Nobody's sincerely explaining that to us, all right? So we can't watch the healthcare sector die, that's the point.
No, we cannot, and that is why it takes you and I, it takes understanding, like you said, and you did not include financial gain.
Well, that's
you just
part
said
of it.
being valued, because that is, doctors have families, you know, they have responsibilities.
Of course,
So
it's a generic way of saying that we can't be doing Naira and Kobo on the show.
No.
But then one way you show to me that you're I'm valued is when you put my well-being, I mean, you make it a matter of priority. Global TV won't say it values Jumai, for instance, if you're not concerned about how she comes to work, how she goes home, if you're not concerned about when she has malaria, how does she treat it, how does she get well, what med is she using, is she even taking care of herself?
Very true.
All right. So all of those are concerns. So when we say value Jumai, we're saying look at our overall well-being. Of course, there's nobody that can solve all of our problems in this world, not even our parents, regardless of all the love that they have for us. But the point is, people must have that sense, that palpable sense that this system cares for me. This system thinks about me. For example, can Nigeria even account for the number of doctors that have left this country between September, or let's say even Q4 of 2021 and now 2 years? Because we don't even have the data to drive it.
It's a very big figure.
Of course. The only thing we hear is speculation. I mean, speculative figures. You just hear today 4,000, tomorrow 2,500, the next day 2,750. But we don't have a handle on how many doctors have left a particular facility. For example, how many doctors have left FMC Abuja? How many doctors have left FMC Lokoja or University of Benin Teaching Hospital or Lagos University Teaching Hospital?
Yeah.
We just know that doctors have left in droves.
Masses, yeah.
Yeah, but we don't know specifically what the figures. We're just talking doctors. We've not looked at nurses.
Nurses.
These are people who are in high demand abroad.
Yes,
these are people who have been thoroughly trained. I mean, I'm blessed to have nurses as friends. All right, so I know how much of rigor these people put through, these young ladies put themselves through just to get to acquire this skill. Because these are fields where there's zero compromise. So by the time they've been able to get through that rigor, all right, and then they've been able to scale their capacity and competence over time, and you still don't value them, and then you're still saying they can't leave. Come on. This is where Americans will say, give me a break.
Give me a break.
All right, we're just trying to raise the curtain, Juma and I, on the show this morning. It promises to be very interesting, entertaining, educative, as well as very insightful. We'll be looking at the Japa syndrome from the standpoint of the health sector. We'll also be looking at the dengue fever, which is now becoming an outbreak. Sokoto is on the news for the wrong reason, health-wise. Yes, as of yesterday, 13 deaths had been confirmed, and several other cases are also being looked at by the authorities, particularly the Nigeria Center for Disease Control, that's the NCDC. Will bring you insights and figures, and then developments along those lines in the course of the show this morning. We're taking a quick break, everyone. We're back shortly to continue the conversation.
You've been to the north and have tasted any of their delicacies, you can definitely testify of how yummy they all taste with different types of unique flavor depending on their ingredients. Hello and welcome to another episode on Taste and Texture. I am Sharona J. Today we take you all down north as we talk about masa, popularly eaten by the northern people of Nigeria, spherical fermented cakes often served as an accompaniment to breakfast, lunches, dinner, or as a snack. Its soft, spongy interior, crunchy shell, and sweet sour flavor is particularly delicious when served sweet with a drizzle of honey or any sweetened syrup. And fruit, or savory with suya sprinkled with yaji. Yaji is the spice blend used to season suya or along miya, also known as soups and stews. Making masa takes a whole lot of time. The great thing is that most of it is hands off, and you can break up the steps to fit your schedule. Now let's make it. The first steps involve soaking raw rice for at least 6 hours until softened. Well, it's best done at night. Wash the rice and let it soak overnight. This initial long soak provides an opportunity for wild yeast to begin to eat the sugar in the rice starch, leading to a sufficient population of microorganisms to really get the batter going later. Blend with cooked rice, which helps contribute to chewy masa. Onions can be optional, yogurt, sugar, instant yeast, salt, and water. Then let the batter ferment for a couple of hours in a warm place until the batter has a sweet rice smell and is doubled in volume. When cooked, the resulting masa will be sweet with aromas of cooked rice. If you want a more sour tasting masa, you can let your batter ferment for longer. It will go through a rise and collapse cycle. You will see a ring on the inside of the bowl showing the level of batter before it collapses, and the batter will smell yeasty like beer. The longer the ferment, the more liquid the mixture becomes. If you listen, you'll hear it bubbling away. Once the batter is fermented to your liking, you stir in a bit more sugar and baking powder. To cook the masa, you can use a casco pan if you have it. The batter goes into the wells, cooking around the edges and forming bubbles on top before it's time to flip. The finished masa is mostly golden with white from the rice peeping through, crunchy on the outside and spongy on the inside. You can comfortably eat them warm with some suya, yaji, sliced tomatoes and red onions, or you dip them into some miya tushi, a savory soup made with sweet orange pumpkin, and wash it down with a tall cold glass of zobo. Enjoy!
All right, you are welcome back to Global Morning, and I'm not doing it alone. I have Uyi here with me, and that was the program Taste and Texture for all you masa lovers. Well, that program, that particular segment is definitely for you. Uyi, have you had masa before?
Well, yes, I had one. I mean, our acting GM brought one time, but okay. I think I had the feel of it because it came with these diced chicken. So it really went well. But again, when I saw this, like I told you off camera a while ago, I think I'm beginning to have some like for it. It looks nice.
Really
it looks like something you want to
delicious.
jump on at the snap of fingers. All right. So my onboarding for Mansa will start this morning.
It's not Mansa.
What's it called?
Masa.
Masa. Okay. I can't even articulate
Why
the word.
not?
That's how interesting it is for me. But I'm sure it's a great
Delicacy.
starter.
Oh,
Yes.
yes.
Especially when you see how popular it is around the northern part of the country. Maybe somebody has got to also go to if you like, make it a popular item in the South, because people in the South are very receptive to this kind of creative idea, especially where it is culinary. Who doesn't like food ultimately?
Well, you said you don't like food. You
well, I said I'm not a foodie, but I'm a fan.
But you're a fan.
Yes.
Yes, I remember you said that. You're a fan. You're a fan.
Interesting. So we're going to be looking at several things on the show for you this morning, including big headlines from our national dailies. Anthony Momodu, as always, will be part of the show this morning, and then we'll talk a little about sports and what's happening. Osimhen has refused to leave the news for quite a number of reasons. Anthony will help us bring perspectives and context into that as well. I mean, that's one young man with a lot of energy and drive and making Nigeria proud every other day, even beyond the CAF awards.
Really?
Yes. All right. So I mean, these are people that make you realize that there's hope for Nigeria, no matter what happens, no matter how bad it seems to get, because these are people who have not forgotten where they come from. Yes, we may not have gotten it right in many areas of our national life, but Nigeria is a country that has a lot of hope. I mean, you see it in young people across tech, across finance, all right, across SMEs, even across the media, for instance. See the creativity that young people are bringing into the media now, even on social media. There are those who are not even waiting for one established media house to engage them. All right, what are they doing? They are jumping on internet tools. All of the opportunities available on the web, all right, to also put their voice, put their voices out there. And look at what they're doing with podcasts. I mean, sometimes you're even wondering, is it not possible that Nigerians now do more podcasting than Americans themselves? All right, that's how much Nigerians can be industrious and ingenious and creative about all of these things. And we hope that government continues to have that sense of direction, all right, that leadership, to be able to help them carve a path, all right, make resources available, make life meaningful for them. And for those who are in business in particular, just be able to also continue to, as it were, power that ease of doing business initiative.
And you know, talking about power, that means of initiative when it comes to business. You know, a friend of mine said, why wait for the government all the time? Where there are million Nigerians out there, so many, the likes of, we have so many prominent Nigerians, likes of Dangote, we have Otedola, who can actually encourage these young ones, really just support their innovation. It can really go a long way, because they started the same way. They didn't start so big at a point. It took steps, baby steps to get to where they are. So we shouldn't, we always talk about the government. Well, true, you as a Nigerian, what impact have you made? Have you contributed?
On your personal level.
Exactly, in the society.
All right, I think it's a matter of balance, Jumai, because whether you like it or not, yes, people must first be responsible for themselves. You know, a former governor in my state once said that things had become so interesting that even for a man who cannot impregnate his wife, he can just come and blame the governor. For somebody who cannot afford toothpaste, they can come and also blame the governor. So people have got to get to be responsible. People must understand that they owe themselves so much. And ultimately, nobody owes you anything.
Yeah, that's true.
However, government must do the fundamental. For example, how do you tell me that as a young person, I'm not trained to do agriculture, but somehow I get to find informal training, I get to understudy, I get to do what they call job shadowing over time and become good with agriculture. Let's say fishery, for example. Government must understand that I need light. Government must understand that I need water. If I'm into, say, farm produce, government must understand that I need motorable roads, access roads, to be able to bring the produce from the farm to the market. They call it farm to market initiative. So that value chain element needs government very critically. So government must understand that the truth of the matter is government knows the right things to do. Yes, people will tell you government has no business in business, but government must create the systems that drive business. For example, government collects taxes. We don't need to talk about taxes. Government knows when to increase VAT, for example. I was growing up in this country, VAT was 5%, today it's 7.5%. Who told government to review it upward from 5 to 7.5%? At a point, even the IMF and other multilateral institutions were pressuring the government to drag it up to 10%. All right, so what we're saying with all of this is government knows the right thing to do. As of today, Nigeria cannot boast 6,000 steady, megawatts of power in this country, whereas a city in Canada can boast 23,000 megawatts. So government knows the right things to do. Government should play its part and see what young people will do with this country in a matter of a few years. Yeah, I understand we're close to the news now, everyone. We've got to bring in the news so we can just put you in front of developments across this country and beyond. But the show continues right after that. Do stay with us.